And for all the generations of the dead, for all that ladder of humanity that has descended down to us, there's scarcely anything. The earth takes them back, and oblivion hefts them. Adieu.
So, Guy de Maupassant really molded the structure for the modern short story. As far as short horror stories are concerned, he was the Edgar Allan Poe of late 19th century France. Pretty cool. Let me tell you a bit more about Guy de Maupassant, because I think to really understand his work, it's important to understand his life and how it contributed to his stories. Super important. He was born August 5th, 1850 to bourgeois parents. In 1857, Guy's strong-willed and independent mother obtained a legal separation from her husband due to long-time violent abuse toward her, as well as the children. Really sad. Even under the threat of public disgrace, she did this. That's pretty impressive. After the separation, Guy's mother was the most important figure in his life, and being a remarkably well-read and independent woman, she did encourage him to read as well. I love parents who encourage their kids to read. It's so great. Soon after that, he was sent to a private boarding school. When he was 18, under the insistence of his mother, he became acquainted with Gustave Flaubert, the author of Madame Bovary. It's pretty cool to at such a young age to meet a really significant author from your own era. It's really, really, really cool. He spent a brief time in Normandy as a naval officer, but then relocated to Paris as a clerk for the French Navy. His relationship with Gustave Flaubert turned out to be extremely beneficial. Flaubert took Guy under his wing and mentored him as a writer. As Flaubert's protégé, Guy de Maupassant really thrived. His first short story that catapulted him to overnight fame was Boule de Suif. However, he came to be known for his darkly humorous stories as well as horror stories like The Orla, The Grave, The Apparition, A Night in Paris, and most famously, Diary of a Madman. Here's something really interesting about Guy de Maupassant. He, among other bohemian absinthe-drinking artists, musicians, and writers in the late 19th century, he was against the construction of Paris's possibly most iconic structure, the Eiffel Tower, which was finally erected in 1889 for the World Fair. Toward the end of his short life, he suffered from advanced stages of syphilis that he had since he was a young man, and he had an obsessive need for solitude as well as an overwhelming fear of death. Maybe this explains the subject matter that he covered in his short horror stories. He attempted suicide by slitting his throat in January of 1892 and died a year and a half later on July 6, 1893 at the age of 42. Like his inspirational predecessors Edgar Allan Poe and Charles Baudelaire, he died young and suffered greatly toward the end of his life. But sometimes this suffering can manifest in such amazing works of horror and beautiful decay. Now, time for what we're here for, his short Gothic horror stories. I did say in the beginning of this video that he was considered the French Edgar Allan Poe as far as short horror stories are concerned, just as Charles Baudelaire was Poe's soul brother when it came to poetry. He really echoes a lot of the themes in Poe's stories, but with one significant difference. A strange pendulum that swings between his admiration of women and austere misogyny. It's really weird. In The Dead Girl, also known as Was It a Dream, a man is torn up after his young mistress dies. He goes to the graveyard to weep at her final resting place. He is not sure if it is a dream or a hallucination, but he sees a reanimated corpse going around the graves writing ghastly, truthful epitaphs of the repose that lie below the ground. Really spooky. Whew! Kinda hits you right in the heart, doesn't it? The truth is that they were despised and wretched. What will this apparition write when it arrives at the grave of the narrator's dead mistress? Who knows? It's up to you guys to find out. This is definitely one of my favorite stories in this particular collection. His tale, The Inn, is a direct inspiration for Stephen King's novel, The Shining. You really need to check it out, it's so cool. Am I Insane tells the tale of a man under the wicked influence of a woman whose beauty possesses and traps him, but whose person and horrid deeds appall him. Ugh. What will it drive him to do? Diary of a Madman, which we've discussed before in my review of the 19th century Penny Dreadfuls, is the narrative of a respected judge turned serial killer. If you haven't checked it out already, you need to, okay? And yes, there is a good reason why I steer clear of vampire stories on my channel. It's because I want to avoid the trope and the misconception that gothic stories need vampires in it to be gothic. I get really sick of that. However, I think the Orla is worth mentioning here. Could this unseen supernatural force be a succubus preying and stalking men's thoughts? Who knows? If you wait till the end of this video, I will give you an invaluable resource for getting your fix for vampires. Trust me, you'll want to stay tuned. And my favorite of these stories is A Night in Paris. It is the tale of a devil's bargain a man makes for what he wants, but eventually pays the ultimate price. He indulges in Parisian delights under the dark vaulted skies when night falls. Is it a dead man's tale? Darkness and silence is what he wishes for, but it overtakes and consumes him. Anything you love too violently will always end up killing you. So guys, I really hope that you do check out Guy de Maupassant. He is absolutely incredible and definitely worth reading. So if you like stories like The Telltale Heart, Murders in the Rue Morgue, The Pit and the Pendulum, things like that by Edgar Allan Poe, you will really like Guy de Maupassant, I promise. And if you're wondering what edition I am talking about for this collection of stories, it is this one. So it is The Orla and Others, the best weird fiction and ghost stories of Guy de Maupassant. And this one has really awesome, like really creepy illustrations, as you can see here. And you guys just need to check it out. It's so great. I will leave a link for this particular edition in the description below so that you can get it. Okay, I said earlier I'd give you something where you can get your fix for vampires. Here it is. My dear friend Rose Sinister has a podcast about vampires and she's done an amazing job with it. I met her almost 4 years ago in New Orleans and we've been dear friends ever since. She's a tour guide in the French Quarter who is notorious for educating and spooking the guests on these tours. She's incredible at what she does. She is the foremost expert on the subject of vampires and provides you with not just the plot of these vampire stories, but insightful analysis on the environment that gave birth to the work in question. Kind of like what I do here with Gothic literature. Yay. I will leave a link to her website down in the description below. Seriously guys, you will not be sorry. You are going to be binge listening to her podcast. She's just so intoxicating, you are going to love it. So guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. Go ahead and hit that like button and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, and make sure to hit that bell for notifications so that you get notified every time I post a video, because YouTube sucks. I have a lot more French literature to come for you, and I'm really hoping that you will enjoy it. So guys, till we meet again, au revoir, and sweet dreams.